I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm excited. I am very excited. We are in July. We are in July now. July 2nd in the year of our Lord, 2024. It is a beautiful Tuesday afternoon outside. Go and look at the weather. See, it's bright behind me, but it's not glaring if you're watching on YouTube. You can see the top of my forehead, the top of my head with the headphones and everything. It's not that bad. It's a beautiful day outside, and the glare is just right to record this episode here live on YouTube. And guys, I mean, it is conference standing projection time. 4 weeks ago, we talked about the group of five and who could be the last seeding in the college football playoff with the 12th seed for the group of five. We talked about the ACC 3 weeks ago. We talked about who could be in the title game. I see Clemson and Miami. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the Big 12. I said that Utah was going to make a stand along with Kansas State with new freshman quarterback Avery Johnson. We also talked about last week in the Big Ten on who's going to make a stand there. It could be Ohio State or Oregon, and I said Ohio State or bust for the national championship. It could be one of those years for the Buckeyes and Ryan Day. And now we get to our last round of conference standing projections today, and that is the SEC. The SEC here for conference standing projections for Pigskin Frenzy. We are ready to rock and roll on this podcast episode. A lot of exciting things coming up for the show, including this episode, so do not tune out. Let's get ready to rock and roll. I'm excited about doing this episode. With that being said, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this wonderful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean or Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you have to do is just share around with others, follow it, share around with others, and like each episode as well. Now, X, Instagram, and Facebook, just type in Pigskin Frenzy. Follow all the pages there. You'll get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football trivia question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, check out the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. You will find a lot about me and learn more about me. You can contact me down below, as well as our platforms page. All the platforms I just mentioned, they're on there. Go and click on your favorite one to listen to the show on, as well as our affiliations page with our proud partners of this podcast, the Beard Club. Guys, if you want a great shave, I know I shave my beard. If you're watching me on YouTube and looking at my face, clean face here. But if you're watching me on YouTube, I cleaned my face and I, shaved my face with the Beard Club products. That's right. Beard Club products, beard grooming kits on sale now, 15% off. Just use all the codes there for the Beard Club. Significant others of your male counterparts, you're not going to want to miss what I have to say right now. The beard grooming kits are where it's at. If you have facial hair and you want a clean shave and groom it up really nice, we have Beard Balm. They have beard oil, beard and face wash. They have beard and face wash, ladies and gentlemen. They have grooming. They have a razor. They have 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, loofah, boar bristle brush, you name it, all at the Beard Club. Just go to my website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Click on the affiliations page and click on the logo of the Beard Club, and it'll take you to the site. Go to my link tree as well on my X bio, on my Podbean bio, on my X bio, my Instagram bio, and my Facebook bio, as well as the description of this episode on YouTube. And click on the link tree down below, and you can click and see on my link tree, there's a Beard Club link. You'll click that link, and then you will go to the Beard Club site to get your Beard Club products. The Beard Club, it is what helps you get your grooming needs be met. 15% off, a lot of deals on the Beard Club right now. Go to it and get your beard grooming kit right now. The Beard Club, proud partner of Pigskin Frenzy. Thank you for being our proud partner for this podcast. College football day today, all the promotion advertising done. 4 minutes. Wow, 4 minutes of just straight plugs. And we're going to talk about some college football, because I know y'all want to hear me talk about some college football. Yeah, I know y'all wanted to hear about the Beard Club too, which is our proud partner, but you also want to hear about some college football. I have my notes. Don't worry, I have my notes. Today's a good day. And let me tell you why today's a good day. Because yesterday was a good day, and it begins a new chapter for college football. The era and the landscape of college football has changed. It has changed tremendously. And it's one of those things where it's like not just with the SEC, with across all of college football. All the conference realignment, all of them are in place. Oregon, USC, Washington, and UCLA are in the Big Ten. Colorado, Arizona State, Arizona, Utah are in the Big 12. The Pac-12 is kind of dead and quiet and gone as we know it. The ACC has brought in Stanford, SMU, and California, and the SEC bringing in Oklahoma and Texas. The kind of what started the chain reaction of conference realignment with Texas and OU going from the Big 12 to the SEC. It is jam-packed. This college football era is now changed, and it's changed, it's pretty much changed the whole entire landscape of college football. It involves money, TV deals, NIL, you name it, all now in this season of 2024. It's a brand new era, and we are kicking it off now here on Pigskin Frenzy with this conference standing projections for the SEC. So strap in. We're in the new era of college football. I started off in the last season of the new era of college football. Now this podcast is primarily going to be focused on the new era of college football as well. So let's strap in, rock and roll, and let's get to our conference standing projections for the SEC. And let's start at number 16. And number 16 is going to be an interesting one. Probably not to you guys, but it's going to be an interesting one. It's maybe predictable, but number 16 is Vanderbilt. I'm just going to sit there and say it. It's Vandy. Yes, they got two good quarterbacks from the portal. Diego Pavia from San Diego State. He transferred in. He brings experience and relentless pursuit on the offense. He most likely will start. They also landed Nate Johnson. If you remember Nate Johnson from Utah in the portal. And those are the two quarterbacks that have the most experience, and those are the two quarterbacks that should battle it out come training camp and come fall camp, right? I expect Diego Pavia coming out on top of that one. He's got the most experience. I think that Nate Johnson will start for Vanderbilt eventually, but I think Pavia is going to be the starter at this time. But the scheduling is too much against them. I mean, if you look at their schedule and seeing who they got, it's pretty daunting. I don't think they have the whole roster besides the quarterback, right, to keep up with a lot of what's going on. I mean, they got Vatek their first game. That's going to be a tough one. Alcorn State, they can win that one. They got to go to at Georgia State. They can win that one. They can be 2-1 there. They got to play Missouri. At Missouri, they got to play Alabama next. They got to play Kentucky next. Ball State, Texas, Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, Tennessee. Look at that stretch. Just look at the stretch. I mean, just listen to what I'm saying here. Texas, Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, Tennessee. And the thing about conference realignment, ladies and gentlemen, is that a lot of schedules are like that. It's daunting. Because of Texas and Oklahoma coming in, you're not going to play as many cupcake games as you would think. You're going to play back to back to back to back. It's gauntlet. If you want to talk about the SEC being a gauntlet, which it is, it already was, but it's now a gauntlet. It's the gauntlet now more than ever. Now that OU and Texas are in the SEC. But look at that schedule. Vanderbilt's got to go to Baton Rouge to play LSU. They're going to play Texas at Auburn, back home to South Carolina, at LSU, then back home against Tennessee on Thanksgiving weekend. What a challenge. What a daunting challenge for Vanderbilt. I think those are a lot of losable games there. I got them at 16. Their quarterbacks are good in those two quarterbacks. Those two quarterbacks are good, but it's going to be kind of hard because of the overall roster, losing some guys in the portal and a lot of the roster turnover and changes there. So Vanderbilt right there for the schedule, kind of daunting against other teams. Number 16 is Vanderbilt. Number 15, and I hate to say it. I hate to say it because I love me some Sam Pittman, but I think Arkansas is at 15. I think that they lost KJ Jefferson. Yes, they did. They lost KJ Jefferson. As I pull up my notes here, they lost him to UCF. They added into the they added Taylon Green, redshirt junior from Louisville, Texas, out of Boise State, the transfer quarterback from Boise State. They had Taylor Green as their next quarterback. They did lose a lot of power in the running game with Raheem Rocket Sanders going to South Carolina. They have a little bit of a roster. They do. They have Ty Washington, redshirt sophomore out of Leesburg, Georgia, right now in there. They got some guys on their team, but and Taylor Green's a good runner. He's mobile, but throwing and accuracy is one of the things that he needs to work on, especially in this new SEC. Arkansas's at 15. They got a daunting schedule. I think they're just like Vanderbilt. They're stronger roster-wise than Vanderbilt is, but I don't know if it's going to line up schedule-wise. They got a lot of games that they could lose. And I think Missouri game is going to be a one to watch out for. They got to play Tennessee, and Tennessee, I think, is going to be good. They have to play at Oklahoma State. They got to play at Auburn, against A&M in Arlington, Tennessee, LSU, at State, Ole Miss, Texas. Tennessee, LSU, State, Ole Miss, Texas. That's a stretch. It may not be a stretch kind of like Vanderbilt's, but it's a stretch, man. Arkansas, I don't know if they have the overall roster to hang in there completely. I think they are going to drop a lot of these games. I think Arkansas is at 15 to start off this new SEC, but hopefully Sam Pittman and company and the Razorbacks can turn it around. So Arkansas is at 15 for me at this time. Again, it's all projections. Anything can change mid-season. I hope that some of these teams prove me wrong. I really do. I said that a few weeks ago as well. I hope some of these teams actually prove me wrong because I want to see them do well. Number 14, Florida. I'm just going to say it. They have the toughest schedule in the conference. I think Florida will be number 14 over Arkansas and Vanderbilt because they're going to win some of those games and they have a little bit of a stronger roster than those other two. But if you look at the schedule, again, if you want to talk about daunting, it's the hardest schedule in the SEC. I said that during the offseason. I said they needed to recruit well, and they needed to beat out Florida State and Miami, and they did not do that. That's why I'm kind of curious. Their first game is at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on as far as on ABC. They got a home game against the U, Miami, who I think is going to be number one but when it's all said and done in the ACC. Miami got a home game against Samford. They got to play A&M. So those are 3 home games back to back to back. They could very well go 1-2 in those games. A&M is going to be A&M's got a lot of talent, and A&M has got a good, strong coach and culture change with Mike Elko coming in as their new head coach. They got to play at State. They got to play against Jeff Levy's new Mississippi State team. They got to play against UCF, at Tennessee, against Kentucky, then against Georgia. Those 3 games right there, when you look at them. Tennessee, who they beat last season in a revenge game from 2022, they're in Knoxville again. Tennessee's been giving them trouble lately. Kentucky is always one of those games that are going to give them trouble because you never know with Florida against Kentucky. They can either win or they can either get blown out by Kentucky. They got blown out by Kentucky last season. Then they got to go play Georgia, Georgia's been obviously the top dogs in the conference and back-to-back national champion, or last back-to-back national champions. They can give them a problem as well. At Texas, look at this schedule, and let me just tell you something. Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. You can hear a pin drop. I mean, if you're Billy Napier, you're hearing a pin drop. That is a hard schedule. That's very hard if you evaluate it. It's in Jacksonville with Georgia, at Texas in Austin, right? Then you got to go back and play LSU on the road as well. You got to play, at home. Excuse me. They played them on the road last year. Home game against LSU. And then you got to play Ole Miss, and you got to play Ole Miss, as far as I know, at home. That's good. You get back-to-back home games. And then at Florida State and Tallahassee. Still tough schedule, regardless, at home or away. I don't know if they have the roster to hang in with all those teams, though. They have a good roster, a very underrated roster, and they can have a lot of heart. But can they outcoach some of those coaches? Are those rosters stronger than the rosters that they are facing, though? I don't know. And that's what's kind of scaring me a little bit. I think Florida's at 14. So I think Florida is at I think Florida right now currently is at 14. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of reports on my phone. Here we go. My notes are blowing up. I'm sorry. So Florida is at 14. Mississippi State's at 13. I think that Jeff Levy's gonna surprise a lot of people. I think Blake Shapen gonna be the starting quarterback. Questions about him a little bit, especially when it comes to timing on his throws. I am curious about that. Even going back to his Baylor days, curious about his timing of his throws. I want to see how well that works in Jeff Levy's offense and how he gets prepared in this type of SEC environment. Not only just Starkville, but on the road in SEC games too. I think State's going to be good. Or not really good. I think they're going to be decent in some games. I think that 13 is suffice. I think they're going to do a lot better than most people think. And I think that State right now is at 13 only because I don't think they have the overall roster to compete with a lot of these other teams. But I think they're going to surprise a lot of people and win some games that you don't expect. So look out for Jeff Levy. I would look out for Jeff Levy for sure. They're going to be a team. Do you think they're going to be a team to that you don't really expect, right? So just really quick, if you want to look at their schedule and get down to it, they're gonna have a tough schedule, yes, but I think they could bring it to Eastern Kentucky, obviously, bring it to Arizona State, bring it to Toledo. They got to play Florida. Right, they got to play Florida. Texas is probably going to be a loss. Georgia is probably going to be a loss as well. They got to play Texas, Georgia, A&M, Arkansas, UMass, Tennessee, Missouri, Ole Miss, and they're going to be some games that they're going to be some losses, but they're going to bring it to some of these teams. So I think State at 13 is going to be suffice. I think that it makes sense, and they're going to surprise a lot of people. Number 13, Mississippi State. Number 12, South Carolina. Lenora Sellers is most likely going to be the starting quarterback for the Gamecocks. I thought Robbie Ashford could pull up a fight a little bit, but Lenora Sellers is surprising a lot of people, and he surprised me during spring. I'm leaning more towards him now as the starting quarterback for South Carolina, but I think right now at 12 is suffice. They got a great running game. Juju McDowell. They got Raheem Rocket Sanders. I think they got a lot of explosiveness in the running game. They got a lot of good underrated receivers. Their offense can be good. I think the question remains for me at linebacker and how teams are going to throw in the middle and run up in the middle. That's my question about South Carolina right now is up the middle on defense in the linebacker core. I think that can cost them some games. Their schedule is going to be daunting. Just like everybody else's. I think South Carolina at 12 is suffice. I think they're going to do better than most. And I think that's why right now 12 is South Carolina for this team. There's a lot of pressure on Shane Beamer. I would elevate the pressure. I would lower the pressure a little bit. I would not let the pressure go to Shane Beamer right now yeah, I wouldn't let the pressure go to Shane Beamer right now at this point in time. At this point in time, I would not let the pressure get to him. Now, next year, we can elevate some of that pressure. Like, all right, let's start doing something a little bit with South Carolina. But right now, I would still remain kind of calm. It's South, and I'm not saying, okay, it's South Carolina, like that in a bad way, but right now, the expectation doesn't need to be as high, especially realigned in a 16-team field in the conference. All right, so South Carolina at 12 is suffice. They got a huge game, SEC opener against LSU at home, and that's going to be a little tough. So South Carolina at 12 right now is suffice. Number 11, Auburn. I think Auburn's got a good roster. The question I got with Auburn is the quarterbacks. I think Peyton Thorne is not the best quarterback in the league. I think if you put Peyton Thorne along others, he's at the one of the bottom. I think his red zone presence in the spring game was good, like I said. But when you're looking downfield options, in my opinion, Peyton Thorne's a little suspect. And I think That's what kind of put me back on Auburn at 11. I think they need a quarterback. I think they really do. I think they need a quarterback room. It is not a quarterback room that Hugh Freeze is used to. Hugh Freeze has taken over play calling this season. I'm curious to see how that's going to go. They got a tough schedule. They got to play a new-looked Alabama team at the end of the season with Kalen DeBoer in the Iron Bowl. Iron Bowl is going to look a little bit different now with Kalen DeBoer against Hugh Freeze. And it's going to be different. But let's see what Auburn does. They have a like I said, tough schedule, but I think 11's good. I think they're going to be better than most. I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams. But Peyton Thorne is my only worry and my only question about Auburn. I think why they're at 11 is they're holding them back a little bit, and I think that's why they're at 11, because of the quarterback struggles and the issues there. So number 11 is Auburn. Number 10 is Kentucky. Kentucky at number 10. I think Kentucky's in the top 10. I think Kentucky's an underrated team. Mark Stoops is back after the Texas A&M rumors that happened. I honestly was surprised that he would leave Kentucky for A&M. That's just my opinion. But, hey, you never know in college football nowadays, right? But Brock Vandergrift, that's a name that you can remember, that you can familiarize yourself with. Backup quarterback at Georgia, freshman backup quarterback at Georgia, Brock Vandergrift. He's transferred into Kentucky. Kentucky's been going after those transfer quarterbacks for quite a while, with Devin Leary, Will Levis before him. Brock Vandergrift can be that guy for the future, for the next 2 to 3 years at Kentucky, that could bring some noise to this Kentucky Wildcat offense. He is a solid playmaker, solid quarterback. He's still a freshman. He still plays like a freshman. He does not have the most experience, but if you start him, which I think Kentucky will, he can get some experience. So, yeah, I think right now, to me, I think that right now Brock Vandergrift at Kentucky could do some wonders and get some experience in there. I think Kentucky right now is at 10. I think the running game's underrated. I think they got a solid tight end set. I think the only question remains is on their secondary, and I push that back to 10 because of those problems. But I think Kentucky's going to be an underrated team. They got a tough schedule, obviously, but I think 10 right now is Kentucky only because of the scheduling, the secondary issues, and I think the experience of Brock Vandagriff can come into effect. But as time goes on, Brock Vandagriff can be a very underrated quarterback in the conference. So watch out for him and watch out for what Kentucky does, this season, or could be. That's fine. So, number 9. Texas A&M. Texas A&M is number 9. So I was questioning this between 9 and 8. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But 9 and 8 for me, I was wondering who's going to be 8 and who's going to be 9. Can A&M be at 8? Can A&M be at 9? But I'm going to put A&M at 9 only because Mike Elko's. I'm not saying he's new because he knows the program. He was the defensive coordinator under Jimbo Fisher a few years back. Yeah, he's familiar with what the Aggies do there. He knows their facilities well. He's experienced with the SEC recruiting. That's why they hired him. He's the man for the job. I just put him there because he's the head coach. This is his first season as head coach of the program. He's the head man now, not just DC, head man of the program. I think that A&M is got a lot of talent. I think that their schedule in some games can be against them. They're playing teams that could potentially beat them. They got Notre Dame, their first game. That's always a tough one. They renew their rivalry with Texas. They got to play LSU, Bama. They got to play all these teams. They got to play these teams. What concerns me a little bit, I think, is playing those teams with a stronger roster. Look, but I think Texas A&M is a good football team. They got the roster better than a lot of these teams. They really do. I mean, they got the roster better than almost better than like a lot better than some of these teams. If you look They got to play Notre Dame. They got their first game. They got to play McNeese. They got to play Florida. Those are the 3 games. Bowling Green. Then they got to play Arkansas. They got to play Missouri. They got to play State, LSU, South Carolina, New Mexico State, Auburn, Texas, and that's their finish. They don't play Alabama. I was wrong about that. They don't play Alabama, but they got some games on their schedule that they could easily win and lose. Around here, this is where the good records start coming in. A&M's probably going to have a good record this year. I just think that some games that they could drop, and that brings them down to number 9 in the standings. So if you drop a few games, that brings you down to 9 or even 10, right? So around the 10 through 1 spot is where your good records come in. I think A&M is going to be underrated. It's a work in progress. They're going to do a lot better than they have been doing. Watch out for A&M. I think Elko's used to the recruiting down there, and this is not like a different first-year coach. It's a different first-year type coach because he knows the program well. He's been there before. So A&M at 9. Tennessee's at 8. And that's what I was going back and forth on. I was thinking, okay, A&M at 9 because of overall roster, like talent on the roster. A&M would be at 8 over Tennessee. But if you're looking at right now in scheduling, I think Tennessee's got it. And I think with their underrated roster and with Nico Limiava is going to be a problem. I think Nico Lima Liviava is going to be a problem. Say that 10 times fast. It's going to be an issue for a lot of defenses. He's a solid quarterback. He's a redshirt sophomore, but he plays like a freaking animal. He plays quarterback really, really well. He's going to bring that Hendon Hooker style offense back to Tennessee. And I know that Joe Milton was trying to do that, but they were more balanced in the running game and more defensive heavy last season. They're going to bring that fast-paced style of offense coming up this season that Josh Heupel is used to doing. And Tennessee at 8 is going to be suffice. I think they're going to lose some games. I mean, they got Bama on their schedule. They got Missouri. Those are going to be some tough games. They got Arkansas. They got a lot of tough games. They got some tough games. I mean, Arkansas, they could win, but there's going to be some tough games on this roster, on this schedule. So Tennessee at 8 is suffice for me. I think because they're going to win an extra game over A&M. They're going to win an extra game over A&M, and that's why I put them at 8 over A&M, because I think they're going to win a one more extra game over Texas A&M. Oklahoma is at 7. Oklahoma is at 7. Our conference realignment, first conference realigned team. Oklahoma is at 7 in the SEC standings in their first season. I think Jackson Arnold is going to be a name to watch out for in the conference. He's going to be, I think he's going to be a little bit more developed. He's going to be, as the games go on, he will be a better quarterback each and every time he steps onto the field. He has shown some potential. Even in the bowl game when he turned the ball over 6 times, he shows some potential. But I think he's still a freshman. I think there's some games on their schedule that they probably could lose. I think they could lose 4 to 5 games, maybe. But I think Oklahoma's got Ole Miss, LSU, Bama, Missouri. Bama, Ole Miss, Bama, Ole Miss, LSU, Missouri. I think that's going to be a tough one right there. Very tough for OU there. But OU has got the roster. They got the quarterback. I think at 7, they're going to win some games. They're going to surprise a lot of people in their first season. Oklahoma's at 7 for me. I think OU's at 7 for me. They're going to do it. They got a harder schedule in Texas, I think. So, but Oklahoma at 7 is going to be suffice. They're going to have they're going to have a good first year in the SEC. Number 7, Oklahoma. Number 6. And I was conflicted on 6 and 5. Is as I'm getting reports here. Sorry, guys. Number 5 and 6. Number 6, Ole Miss. Number 5, LSU. And I wanted to do it simultaneously because I thought it would be cool. Number 6, Ole Miss. Number 5, LSU. Let's start with Ole Miss. Ole Miss has got the loaded roster. A loaded roster on offense. They got Juice Wells, Trey Harris, Dayton Wade, Jordan Watkins. I mean, they got Jackson Dart. They got Logan Diggs in the backfield, Caden Prescorn at tight end. They got a loaded receiver room. And on the defensive front, they got Jared Ivey and Walter Nolan on the defensive front. They loaded up in the transfer portal. Excuse me. They loaded up in the transfer portal. I think if you look at Ole Miss and their scheduling, they got a pretty easy schedule. Probably one of the easiest in the conference. Here's why I put them at 6. Because, like I said, you drop a couple of games or 3, it can put you at 6. That's 1, because that's the kind of conference that we're living in now. That's number 1. Number 2, I think history tends to repeat itself. And I think once Ole Miss gets really, really hyped up, they have a good season. They win 11 games the first year. They get really, really hyped up because all their guys are coming back. They're going to get hyped up for a fantastic season, playoff winning season, could be national champions. And they could be. You never know. They could be. They could be in Atlanta. I don't know. But I'm just going by history. History tends to repeat itself because when it does, they usually go 8-5 or 9 or 7-5 or 8-4 or 9-4 or usually about 8-5. History tends to repeat itself. When they're hyped up at their most, they end up losing games that they don't expect to lose, or that they don't expect to lose. And I think that's what my issue is right now. I'm putting them at 6. I think because of that, I think that they may drop some games that they're not expected to drop, because it is a new conference. It's a surprising conference. It's a new league. And I'm just concerned about that a little bit. I'm going to hold off and put them at 6. They could very well beat LSU. They could very well beat Georgia after, recruiting heavy, especially in the physicality department of their team. They could do it. Will they do it? That's the question. Will they? I got them at 6. LSU's at 5. They're going to win a lot of games. I do not think they are going to, excuse me, I think they're going to drop some games that you don't really expect. I think that they lost some key pieces of their offense. Obviously, Jaden Daniels. Obviously, Malik Neighbors. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously, Logan Diggs. They bring back John Emery after having one more, after an academic year regarded him ineligible. He got an extra year of eligibility. He's using his last year of eligibility now. You got Garrett Nussmeier. You got some guys like Caleb Jackson and Trey Holly in the backfield if Trey Holly's issues is cleared up. You got Liberty transfer and C.J. Daniels. You got Xavier Thomas, Mississippi State transfer at wide receiver. You got Kyron Lacey back for one more year of eligibility as a super senior. You got some guys on your team that could break out at receiver and on offense. The question remains with the depth of their defensive line. The depth of their defensive line and the secondary defense remains questioned. You got one of the best linebackers in the country or best defensive overall players in the country in Harold Perkins, who could go first round. Regarding his freshman season, he had a quiet sophomore year, but if he played like he did his freshman year, all season this year, his junior year, he's first round pick. No doubt. So LSU's at 5. I think they got some games that they could drop, though, and I have some questions on defense a little bit. I think number 5 for LSU is suffice, but they got a solid offense and a good quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier that can lead them to number 5. So number 5, LSU. You're going to be surprised when you say number 4. Number 4, Missouri. You're going to put Missouri ahead of LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, OU. Heck yeah, I am. And I'll tell you why. Because their schedule is fairly easy. Fairly easy. They miss Georgia. They do have to play Oklahoma. They do have to play Georgia. They do have to play Alabama. They do have to play Tennessee. Guys, but here's the deal. Here is the deal. Missouri has got a loaded roster that are all coming back from last year's Cotton Bowl winning team. They lose Cody Schrader. Yes, they still got Marcus Carroll coming in from Georgia State, who could be a solid running back choice in the backfield. They got 2 solid running backs in the backfield from the portal. One from App State, one from Georgia State with Marcus Carroll. They got Brady Cook back under center. They got Luther Burden and Theo Wees back at the receiving core. Luther Burden, the best returning receiver in the SEC, most likely, or one of the best returning receivers if you regard Trey Harris and Jordan Watkins and Juice Wells, along with Luther Burden. They got a schedule, man. They really do. I think Missouri's going to win a lot of games and surprise a lot of teams. They could very well sneak into one of those at-large spots in the playoffs. They really could. I'm high on Missouri. Number 4 is Missouri. I don't think that they make it all the way. I think they can drop some of those games like an Alabama or an OU. But I think maybe there's an outside chance they make it to Atlanta. Number 4 for me is Missouri. Number 3, before we go to number 2 and 1 and conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy, number 3, Alabama. The new look Alabama under Kalen DeBoer. I'm very curious to see how they're going to look. First season without Nick Saban. A new era of college football has begun for sure. Kalen DeBoer, former coach at Washington, led Washington to a national title game appearance last season, lost, but led them as a national champion runner-ups, and now he's going to Alabama to replace the greatest coach of all time in Nick Saban. And the funny thing about that is they got some tough teams on their schedule. I'm bold enough to put them at 3 because they got a heck of a roster. They still got a heck of a roster. I think Georgia is going to be a concern. I think Tennessee is going to be a concern. LSU will be a concern, obviously. And OU, excuse me, OU and Missouri will be concerns. Here's what I'm going to tell you, though. I think Alabama can win the majority of those games. One, a lot of them are at home. They got some games on the road, like LSU, Tennessee. A lot of those are at home. Missouri is at home. Georgia is at home. Those are some good games that are at home. I do not know about Oklahoma yet. I think Oklahoma's on the road. But it's on the road. Oklahoma's on the road. If you look at Bama this season, they got the roster to hang in there with those teams. Obviously, a lot of that roster is Nick Saban heavy, that Nick Saban recruited. It's just under a different message now that Kalen DeBoer is the head coach of that football team. So I think at 3, I think 3 is the spot. I think they're going to drop a couple of games. I really do. There's no way they're not. I think probably either one team goes undefeated or every team's going to lose at least one game. We're in that year where I think at least there's going to be one team that goes undefeated in the SEC, or every team's going to lose because of the schedule and how it is played out. That's just how I'm seeing it. Bama's at 3 because I think they're going to lose a couple of games, and they got some tough games on their schedule, like Georgia, like Missouri, like LSU, like Tennessee, like OU. So Bama's at 3. I think they're going to drop a couple of games, maybe 1 or 2 at best, and I think that's going to put them at 3. But Bama's a good team. They got a loaded roster. I just think that the schedule is going to be a little tough, and they drop a couple of games there due to that. So number 3, Alabama. 2 and 1. Number 2, the two top teams on who I think is going to make it to the SEC championship. Texas, Georgia, obviously. Texas, Georgia. Let's start with Texas. Texas has got an easier schedule than most. They are loaded on both sides of the ball. They bring back majority of their team back from the college football playoff from last season. They got to play Kentucky. They got to play A&M. They got to play Vanderbilt. They got to play State, Florida. They're going to beat all those teams. If you're going to be real, I think they're going to beat all those teams. They got to play one team, though. One team, and I cannot wait for it. I'm so excited. October 19th, they got to go to play Georgia at home. They play Georgia at home. That's probably going to be game of the year, could be. Game of the year candidate there. They got to play Georgia at home. Question there. That's a big question, but they return a lot of their roster. Quinn Ewers is back. Steve Sarkisian knows what the SEC is like. He's been in the SEC. He's recruited in the SEC when he was the OC at Alabama. He knows what it's like. So Sark's not ready for the challenge. Sark's ready for the challenge. And Quinn Ewers is there. They got a loaded quarterback room. Texas is loaded. So first year team to probably make it to the SEC championship. First year in their first season is going to be Texas in Atlanta. I think Texas has a spot in Atlanta. And then number 1, Georgia. Obviously, top dogs. Kirby Smart, the best coach in college football now that Nick Saban is gone, the kingpin of college football, loaded on both sides of the ball. They probably have one or two of the best quarterbacks coming back not only in the conference but in the country with Carson Beck. Loaded receivers with Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas, both sides of the ball loaded. Michael Williams is still running rough shot over on the edge. They got a solid team on both sides of the ball, and they're still very physical. Very physical football team is Georgia. A lot of games on their schedule they can win and lose. They got a losable game against Bama. Ole Miss can upset them. They got some games on their schedule that Texas, that they could easily lose at Texas. They got a tough schedule, tough outing a little bit in some of these games. They got to play Clemson their first game. I think that game's going to be a little, iffy for Clemson, maybe, but we'll talk about that when the time comes next month. So, because next month is the start of college football. So, yes, I think Georgia is number 1. Texas is at 2. I think they're going to play each other. Either one is going to happen. They're going to lose on October. They're going to rematch each other in December. Who do I have winning that rematch? I have Georgia defeating Texas in the SEC championship game in Atlanta. I think Texas will still make the playoffs. I think that Georgia is going to be I think Georgia is number 1, Texas is number 2 in the SEC standings. Georgia defeats Texas by a score of 42-35. It's going to be a little bit high scoring. So 42-35 in Atlanta in the SEC championship, and Georgia gets one of those 4 bye-week spots in the first round of the playoff. They will become SEC champions and go to the playoff. Georgia defeats Texas in the SEC championship game. Georgia 1, Texas 2. Georgia defeating Texas in the SEC championship game, 42-35 in December, becoming SEC champions and grabbing a first-round bye in the playoff this December. I just think Georgia's too loaded. I think Texas is loaded too, but I think Georgia's got a slight advantage physically over Texas, and I think that's what gets them the win and wins the SEC. I will post the 2024 conference standing projections for the SEC tomorrow, which is Wednesday, on Instagram, X, and Facebook. Tune into that on social media and give that a like, and let me guys know down on the comments below here on this YouTube video and on the post tomorrow on who do you guys think wins the SEC and who do you guys have 16-1 in your standings. With that being said, that's all the time we got for Pigskin Frenzy today. Guys, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back and watch and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you have to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X, Instagram, and Facebook, just type in Pigskin Frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, check out the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Thank you, our proud partners here at the Beard Club. Guys, July 2nd, this Thursday, July 4th edition of Pigskin Frenzy, guys. July 4th edition of Pigskin Frenzy. Happy early July 4th and Independence Day. Diving deep into the NFL once again, another NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy, talking about the latest across the league with the NFL coming up. So we're going to talk about everything going on around the NFL. I'll find a good topic to talk about with the NFL, and we're going to discuss it on this Thursday. More up to date. We'll talk about the topics coming up soon. I'll let you guys know on social media when you see it and on X when you see it. But until Thursday, until the NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy for July 4th edition of Pigskin Frenzy, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We will see you Thursday for a July 4th NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy Thursday. For everybody out there, please and always stay the course.